All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Real quick, Jordan, just want to do a quick screen share check. You can see my screen.
I can. Yeah, it looks like you're sharing your PowerPoint here, your slide deck.
And I can't hear you, mostly because I let my phone take over. Let me just disconnect. There we go. Hey, Jordan, can you say that again?
Yeah, it looks all good on my side here. I'm able to see your slide deck.
Okay, perfect. I was just doing something, trying to be clever. Today I was going to show you the mobile app component here as well. We'll get into that in a second. I was just organizing my Google Meet so I can get my screen share for my phone so I can show you guys. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Just as a quick rundown on the meeting platform itself for Zoho meetings, is that you're able to ask questions, or if you have anything for Jordan and I during the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A and chat functions. Post your question. Jordan will hop in while I'm talking, and then we'll have a little time at the end for for Q&A. So about last 5-10 minutes of the presentation, we'll jump in there. So thanks for coming, everyone. Today we're going to be doing a product webinar about NSIM Rasters.io. So I usually just call it NSIM or Rasters. The full product name is a bit of a mouthful. What it is a routing platform for private and municipal customers. And the idea here is that we're be able to integrate both Geotab and Rasters together, where you can import your route. Say you're going on a street sweeping job today, or you are doing some waste pickup, or whatever kind of like route-based kind of activities you're up to, and you have your operators out there driving the trucks, doing their work, reporting anything back, like say a missed bin, anything kind of trouble causing out there. And that's kind of the idea of the product today. So we'll get a little more details, but first, just wanted to kind of do a short slide deck, and then we'll get into the actual demo itself. Don't want to PowerPoint anybody to death. I don't like them either. So really quick, just wanted to outline kind of where Advantage One sits as your Geotab partner, and then where folks like NSIM Rasters fit into our Geotab ecosystem. So right in the middle there, we're Advantage One right here in the middle. We are your Geotab partner. You know and love us from your regular kind of day-to-day activities. And we interface with both Geotab and connect you to the Geotab marketplace, which is solutions like dashcams, rasters, other route planning software, other safety systems like OK Alone, things like that. All those different applications and systems out there that integrate smoothly with Geotab. We are kind of your central point to learn about those, interface with those products, and get you going. So that's basically what we're doing today, is another marketplace partner, NSIM Technologies, with their product Rasters.io, and we'll be jumping into that portion today. A little bit of context of where where we kind of sit on. So if you've never seen this slide before, it's something that we just have to kind of illustrate where people's operations kind of end up sitting with, and where their journey is with telematics. So, you look at classic telematics 10, 20 years ago, a lot of the time it was businesses that either didn't have it at all because they were just doing radio dispatch, paper run sheets, running around kind of just waiting to the end of the shift to hear back, or maybe somebody might find a payphone or have a cell phone and give out route details if they don't have the radio on them at the time. We move into dots on the map, level 2 there for most use cases for folks that are just starting out. They're just really seeing location. That was the kind of classic, see on TV. Oh, we found you driving on this road near the port. Now we caught you, kind of TV show. But in reality, a lot of folks, and pretty much what we're now, is in this level 3 to level 5 space, where we're starting off with things like, we know our location of our vehicle, but we also know, what's happening with it. So how is it being driven? How are people with the gas? Are they hard on the gas pedal, hard on the brakes? Are there issues with the vehicle itself reporting trouble codes? And then we kind of scale up from there. So that's where most of you folks are today with us at Advantage. If you aren't, that's okay. Let's talk and bring you up there, and feel free to reach out to your account manager and start that conversation. But that's kind of level 3 to level 5 is where a lot of folks that like you that are interested in something like NSIM are going to be. We're using the data to deal with our vehicle issues, monitor performance, and also get into driver safety, scorecarding. Maybe we start getting into actual like video telematics where we're tracking video for service delivery, as well as kind of just general resolution of safety incidents or for say collisions. And then we start rolling that up higher and higher and getting into making telematics kind of the core part of our operation. So that's where we start getting into tools like NSIM, where we start really replacing all the paper run sheets, all the paper maps, all that work that you'd be, you're halfway digital. You're collecting, excuse me, you're collecting everything together in a spreadsheet. You're running all of your calculations. You're running your business from that, but it's starting to get a little bit over encumbered, or you spend just a lot of time and hours doing it, and things happen, mistakes happen, and we go back and have to redo all that kind of stuff to keep everything running. So the idea here is start pushing telematics really into that space and using systems like NSIM to automate a lot of that stuff, or to even just make it easier to digitize and stop, chasing spreadsheets, and instead of having kind of that end-to-end functionality where drivers have an app on their phone, you have a web planning portal that's integrated in the Geotab where you can do all this stuff, set it up, send it out into the world, and have people perform their day-to-days and log what they need to log, where traditionally you would be waiting for the dispatcher to get a radio call back, or waiting for somebody to come back with their paper log at the end of their shift so that you type it all up and keep track of what happened during the day. 6 weeks. So getting actually right into that, I'm jumping ahead of my own slide deck in my conversation here, is, look at, so where we're kind of fitting this today is, obviously I'm not going to touch on literally everything. The places that I'm going to show you have earned their spot in our demonstration here today. But I want to get you thinking. So as you're listening to this recording or listening to me live talk, so thanks for the folks that are here, start thinking about how your operation is working right now, where you guys struggle with right now as well. Are you constantly reprinting new inspection sheets? Are you constantly reprinting new run sheets? Something changes, something adds a stop to the route. How do they do that? Do you just radio over and say, hey, can you just make sure you go stop by this person's address for this order or this pickup? How is that working today? And also, how are you bringing new staff on? Are they, it's training drivers is tough. I was in that space before I came to Advantage. I was actually in a mid-market and I guess now larger transportation provider out of Ontario before I moved out west, and bringing on, retaining school bus drivers, charter drivers, even bringing on taxi drivers, getting them to learn the routes and get everybody familiar with the area. It's a tough job. And especially when you have a lot of heavy equipment now, and you have operators out there with snow plows or garbage trucks or street sweepers, and they need to know where they're going. Things might change on them. Like say even like a bus driver, things might change on them. Stops might move around, routes change on them. So you want to be able to have, ideally, be able to bring somebody on without having to have them memorize the old school way every last piece of their route, just in case something changes. What are you looking at for your onboarding and training for staff? How much is that costing you in time, labor, and just even like literal staff time and hours and dollars when you're training new staff and bringing them in, or even retraining them? You need to put them onto a new route. They're experts in the equipment, but you just have to bring them real quick on the spare board, and they got to go across town. So these are the kind of things that we're looking for when we're talking about where do we find the best fit for places like Rasters IO here, where we have a lot of paper run sheets and maps, or maybe just in your dispatch office you have a giant roll of every route map for every snowplow, for every street sweeper, every garbage truck. That's all sitting in your manager's office, and that comes out once in a blue moon to train some folks, and then after that, you just keep reminding them where they're supposed to be going, or having to re-coach people, or go back and grab a missed pickup, fix up errors, things like that. So these are the kind of things where if any of these things apply to you, it's probably it's worth at least considering the tech you're going to see in the demos today. So like I said, going over my presentation already, beat myself to it. The idea here is that, so NSIM is a Canadian-based solution. It's based out of Quebec. It's built for both government and for private business. So if you are operating a waste company, or you're operating a cleaning service, or if you're like government service running street sweeping jobs, snow plowing, kind of all those public works services. And I'm showing public works in the sense of snow plowing, street sweeping today, but it could be really any predefined route function that you're sending out once a day or once a month or multiple times a month that you need to have on a kind of standardized route that you need to be able to digitize, monitor, and see how everything's performing. And then on top of what, my favorite features of NSIM are the turn-by-turn and live feedback for the operators. I'll show that to you here shortly after I get you guys into the main portal and geotab. The biggest thing for me is I've been through projects before with large scale and kind of enterprise, big government, digitizing of maps and everything, getting all the GIS folks involved. And at that scale, it's wonderful. You have tons and tons of resources to be able to get this job done. Not so much when you start scaling down beyond like the 1 million person city mark kind of thing, right? You don't have a dedicated team that's purely all about just maintaining roadmaps, street center lines, and having every last thing digitized under the sun. So what I love about NSIM is that it has a editor that you can just pick up and use to import routes. We can leverage geotab data to also capture those trips. You can just say, take the trip around the block or do the route, simulate the route with the driver, and then take that snippet of their movement and actually turn that into the route to digitize it, and then just tweak everything else up afterwards. And then on top of that, once you have everything in place and you've actually dispatched it out for a real world job, seeing how it's performing and being able to see how well how everything's going, where they are, what they've completed, and that's able to be tracked right back at home. So right when you're in your office, you can monitor that stuff and keep everybody on track. So those are features. Those are wonderful. Those are great kind of like scoping things to to get your eyes, get your ears interested. But I really wanted to point out the outcomes, and this is where some of the value really comes from here. So, the quick wins that I was kind of alluding to as I was talking here, things like the transition from paper. So, getting rid of those reprinting those route books every year, reprinting those inspection sheets, reprinting just anything on paper, period. Get away from that. Go digital. Saving your fuel and your time. That's everything linking from geotab as well. So that's quantifying how long it takes to do routes on average. How fast are they going? How many times are you getting reports of non-compliance or misses? Because it's not always the operator's fault. It very much could just be somebody didn't pack their trash properly. Somebody didn't move their car. You need to point those out and say, how many misses along the route from deviations from my ideal route does this look like, to kind of really quantify reality and make that into actual numbers. You can take those upstairs to city council or to your director and say, hey, actually, we need to think about modifying a few things because here's the data that proves that we're not going to get the ideal case, and we're going to integrate a lot of our operators' knowledge from them working here for 20 years. We can quantify that and make that real and actionable. Along with, even just counting maintenance stuff. How many times does it count until you have to go to maintenance to the vendor? You have to pull a truck off the road, especially in waste pickup and snow plowing. Pulling a truck off the road is insanely costly in a lot of ways. And optimizing, or at least knowing when you're due for a maintenance schedule coming up so you can plan for it, rather than having an arm or a compactor break, or having one of your sweeper brooms break on you. Somebody forgot to oil, the broom system, things, all those kind of daily maintenance requirements. Did that get done? And how many uses can we get away with? I say, even in the worst case, before we hit a failure point, capture that information from your telematics system. And then more for, the long-term stuff is, what does all that stuff turn into? So I give an example here of Concord, North Carolina, just for illustrative purposes. And to be very transparent, that example came from another, so it came from Geotab, from another Geotab partner and their system that they implemented. So similar to NSIM, but in a different kind of scale and purpose. So just to kind of highlight, even regardless of the product that you choose, going into digitization and telematics for this is, the amount of time and hours and emissions that you save dealing with, having to basically optimize that and figure out how to find a better way to do things and have the data back you up. And that's where I'm getting at too with the overloaded routes thing is, same thing with pulling off a truck for maintenance. How many times does your vehicles unexpectedly leave their routes because they actually went over capacity or they just had too many stops? And that means they have to deviate. They got to go drive, offload, come back, restart. Where do they pick up? Did they forget their place? Did they end up redriving segments of a route because they got, they just happened to have to go back over a lunch break and they just came back and said, I think this is where we started. The digital map in front of them in the cab can tell them, you actually left off on this street corner. This is the last place you're at. Start from over here. At the very least, getting your operators back on track through disruptions, and then going back and seeing where you can optimize places to find out, am I overworking this truck? Do I need a second one? Do I need to run them in tandem? Whatever operational decisions that might, you'll get data from using from telematics and from NSIM. And so just a quick reminder for anybody that popped in, chat function down at the bottom there, the little chat window. If you have any questions, please pop them in. Can answer them at the end of the presentation. And of course, reach out to us, and I'm happy to talk your ear off and extol the, the virtues, as it were, of going digital, and also backing that up with real information, right? Not just saying, oh, it's wonderful. Here's the actual results we've seen in the market from doing this. So you can be more competitive, or at least more efficient with your resources and more more efficient with your taxpayer dollars that's coming into your budget. So today, I spent the last 15 minutes doing preamble and getting everybody interested. What I'm actually going to show you in a little over a minute here is actually going into the product, seeing it inside of GeoTab and outside of GeoTab. There's two different views. Showing you the operator's app as well, so you can kind of see the experience of what it would look like to be the person in the cab. If we have time, I want to also just show you that route builder thing. I said it was one of my top 3. I want to show you the route builder because I was able to, without any experience in the world, able to go in and mock up, what I remember from being, younger, living in my hometown, what the garbage truck route used to be. And, for example, I tack that in, just like digitizing a map, either from memory or from the paper map that I have. I can tack those in, get that running, and then out the door to the operators. And then also just because I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say it, also think about, we're really getting into the world where this isn't the only thing that you're doing in tandem, and really where you can enhance or even just outright drive value for your organization and your operations is by tying in things like video telematics into your operation. So consider that too. So we're really going to focus on NSIM today, but think about the times where, we hit those stops and we hit those, pickup points, and, what you're getting into when you have to resolve complaints or a missed pickup, or you need proof to show to the person on the ground, this is what happened. I have a video of it, or I have a picture of it. And then also stats that you might want to be publishing back to your business operations group, your business analyst, to really kind of take those reporting pieces and keep everything up and running operationally, but then also having a data feed that goes into the folks that are going to be putting those dashboards together at the end of the day, that show your on-time performance, that show your number of miles driven, fuel gallons of liters of fuel you burned, things like that, all going into there, and then tying that also into what you have with GeoTab today as well. So that's your DTC codes, issues with the truck, driver safety, making sure everybody's driving safely and efficiently, and then also the operation job's getting done, but everybody's going home at the end of the day as well. So you're kind of catching all the fields here. Think about those parts of your operation and where this kind of digital technology can really come in and help you out and really prove that value to you there. So just real quick breeze, live monitoring dashboard. I'll show you the live version of this in a quick second. This is just a breakdown of what's currently going on. So in my demo environment, I have a whole bunch of simulated stuff running around, and what's actually running, what's not, based on activity. So based on activity type. what's running around, what's being done. So what kind of people, what kind of operations are out there being done at the moment? Are they on time? How long are they taking? You know, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of fun stuff there. Visual representation of what's actually working as well. So who's out there? You know, what are they actually up to right now? How can you see the progression in what's been completed? And then same thing, kind of thing, like route completion. So you might remember this, especially folks that from the government side that have worked with me for route completion in Geotab. This is that route completion report on steroids. It is so much more awesome, being able to have a lot more customizability in how you build those metrics out and display them on the map. A lot more flexibility in how that stuff shows up as well. So really cool. We'll be touching on that as well. And then, of course, my build a router or build a route. Hopefully, no one from Build a Bear that I said that. Build a route. You can build it by, like I said, by GPS data, by hand, built on tasks. So things like where an operator reports an overflowing bin or reports a non-compliant something, or maybe it's a piece of infrastructure on your asset management database that they ticked off and said, this is a problem. Rebuilding a route to send those folks out there and dispatch them out and actually have that tracked. And then all of that to now jump into, I'm just going to jump into the real life thing. So like I said, any questions, pop them into the chat or email us, and happy to engage with you on that. So anything that you find interesting, anything that maps to your experience of what challenges you're facing, let's jump in. So what I wanted to show you right off the gate is everybody's favorite thing to ask is, is it inside of Geotab? And the answer is 2 thumbs up, yes. So instead of having to jump between a portal and Geotab and back and forth, you have it inside of Geotab where the menus for all the pages I'm going to show you are available inside of Geotab. Now, forgive me, I am an old person at heart, apparently. And I love my separate interface that, you know, dedicated for before they got it integrated in the Geotab. So I will be switching back and forth occasionally, mostly because I remember where all the shortcuts are over there. But the main point, minus the silly joke there, is that everything is inside of Geotab as well. So we can go to all these different parts of the panel and see it here. And if I need to jump off to go grab a diagnostic code or see, you know, our safety analytics, I can just jump over there, jump back into ANSI. So what I'm showing you right now is the live map that we saw that slide of a second ago. So in this case, it's because we have a bunch of simulated vehicles running around doing their thing. And if I click on one, you know, you notice that I have the status of the vehicle in the corner here, who's driving it, and I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go, that's better. We can see who's driving it, where they are, when's the last time that information updated. We also can connect it back to Geotab as well. So this is the fun part too, is that it's not just living on its own. We'll pull in Geotab telemetry. So if you have a bin up and down arm that takes a picture from your dash cam and your side mounted, you know, load camera, you can capture that and see that it triggered here. You know, you'll see what route they're currently on. So where are they up to and how far are they into it? And then also if anything's cropping up on their engine. So we can see that we have a couple of codes popping up in the engine there. That tells us, you know, we might need to be heading over to our maintenance center. You'll go over here and check that out. Basically kind of a jumping point to Geotab. So this is our live map. We can show, you know, who's driving, who's stopped. We can group by, a one little fun feature too is we can group by proximity. So that kind of very much like I have lots of operations I can kind of put together. I can, of course, choose which vehicles I want to see. And then also see what kind of routes. I can see history as well. I can go back in time and see my legend of where I was going. And just as a side note to explain it, I live in Edmonton. I used to actually live in London where our demonstration vehicles are. I logged in with my phone and apparently it decided to make that garbage truck drive all the way across the country. Off it goes. So ignore that little trace. That was me earlier this morning. But over here, we have our retread of what operations were actually happening. So, you know, were we spreading material? What mode were we in? Are we currently in transit? So you can build your routes, incorporate the transit segments, the deadheading, as well as the work segments, and have those labeled and see where they are, what's happening with those routes. You'll notice that we have a bunch of these little little bin icons. I was running around pressing the bin complete button. So in the mobile app as an operator, I was signaling that I had picked up these bins here, and saying, oh, this was done, this vehicle's running around. I can capture that information there. So showing what's happening. A little quick explanation on some of these icons you see here as well. So these are tasks. So conceptually in NSIM, we have a couple different kinds of routes. We have routes that have planned just because I know where they're supposed to be driving. Just here's my turn-by-turn directions. And then also I have another kind of route where I can build it out and say, I've got a list of addresses and you need to do X operation, fill a pothole, pick up a garbage bin, inspect a transformer, whatever it might be. That task is for you to complete here. In this case, it might be just a scheduled pickup route, where we're putting these tasks in to make sure that you pick the right address and it's you mark it off correctly. It might be a repair job. It might be something else. In this case, you see like changing light poles, like light bulbs and poles. Different assets coming from your city or your private management system that you can bring into NSIM and assign tasks and things to do to them. So that way you can build that route. So you actually can build a route listing all the tasks. If I were to give a job schedule to somebody, I can build a route out of all of my missed pickups. So all the places that the operator said, oops, I missed that bin, I can go back, compile all of those into a route, starting from say my sanitation base, and construct a route that hits all of these and tell me how long it's going to take. And I'm going to assign a driver to go do all those pickups. Is more or less kind of the idea there with tasks. And we're going to jump over. I'm just going to I'll get rid of that here. So filter wise, I'm just showing you here real quick. There's some filters. We can display open, feedback. So feedbacks being, where the operator gets a signal something went awry, whether it's a blocked sidewalk or, a bin that's non-compliant. I can mark off, oh, I couldn't turn there because there was construction or there was an issue with the road surface, whatever it might be. You can have all these different kinds of feedbacks that you can build based on your operating case, and insert those for the driver to use on their phone when they reach the destination to what they're supposed to do, and report that problem, move on to the next scheduled part of their job. So that's the live map. I'm just going to show you really quick here, actually, the route status here as well. So I wanted to show you and like I said, actually, just because I'm not super familiar with how they named everything over here, all this stuff exists in the same spot. I just am more familiar with it over here. So what I wanted to show you actually is also the state for your route completion as well. So this is just, think more regular scheduled routes. So snow plowing, street sweeping, kind of every Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of tasks or routes that your operators would do, making sure that you see, did that operation get completed? What's the current status? So we can have a customizable legend where you can define what counts. You notice that we have different priority levels here as well that I'm putting in, say priority 4, priority 3 roads. What does it count for as well? So do we do both sides of the road? Do we do one side of the road? Showing that completion, those statistics, so that way you can see by the operation, what had happened in that area. And then moving being just driving. It's kind of like these people drove all over these spots in the simulator, showing this is how much coverage we've given. So the idea there is that this would be more, like I said, more for kind of fixed route operations where you have snow plowing, street sweeping, kind of municipal functions, but you could still use it for everything else. This is in general kind of a coverage map to show these operations that I had sent out today are being done. Like I have presence in the area and I've covered that part of the road network, so I can kind of get a general sense of what's happening. And then actually really quick, just because this is not supposed to be a training webinar, just wanted to show you some of the high-level points. But I just wanted to cover some terminology because you'll see things like feedbacks and operations and all this different stuff in there. An operation is just basically a I'm planning to do something on a certain date, and it's going to include certain kind of functions. So if I have a plan for an operation for my spring cleanup, and that includes waste trucks and street sweepers and whatever else it might be out there, I'm going to be sending those vehicles out there, and I want to monitor all those folks at once. I have my seasonal street sweeping campaign. It also happens to be the junk collection campaign too for the waste folks. I'm going to put them together and say, these are all of our functions we're going to be doing for our spring cleanup. We'll be spreading. We have a parks and turf truck spreading fertilizer on the rights of way for the lawns. We've got a garbage truck running around collecting, put it out on the curb, kind of like spring cleanup campaign. And we're also sweeping the streets at the same time. Let's just say we're doing all that at once, which is crazy. But you can plan it all together, and that's what we consider an operation. So just wanted to cover that off really quickly, was what that terminology meant. And that's when you see those words, operations, functions, things like that. That way we're not getting lost. So there's also additional some functionality here for vehicle stuff. I'd say use GeoTab's trip history for that. A lot better for reviewing all the stuff going on there. Want to get into our routes, because that's kind of the meat and potatoes. Routes and tasks are kind of our big two topics here today. So this is also one of the slides that I had shown you folks earlier, is tracking the progress of your routes happening right now. And this is where like I said, this is where you have stats for all the nerds, all the business analysts, all the folks. And I say nerds, knowing that I'm exactly the target market for this. So what's actually happening on the road right now, what activities are happening, who's in charge of them, so what operators assigned, what piece of equipment are deployed on that route, how long is it taking them, how much distance are they early, are they late? So the example here, there's a little icon down here for on-time performance, showing them actually about it somehow 1 second ahead on this route in particular. I'm beating the clock by 1 second. So I'm showing my progress, and this again kind of gives you a visual indicator of what's going on, and you can see what's happening here. I can export that as well. So if I wanted to, I can actually download an Excel sheet of this grid. So if I needed to send it off to somebody really quick as a capture of the stats at noon before the shift change, I can pull this up and see what's in here, what were they up to, what was the last progress and last update, what happened, who was last assigned to that route as well, showing progression. So I can just have a giant spreadsheet that lists it all out for me, just in case I need to send it off to somebody who doesn't have access to Rasters, and I can point that out. But for everybody else that has access to the platform, I can come in, I can see graphs about what's happening visually. I can see my table of what's happening to see, who's out there on the job. And then also I conveniently can also just do things like look back at the history. I can reset things. I can edit that map as well. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna jump over to show you this waste route that I created quickly. So this is the demonstration out of my hometown in Chatham, Ontario. So showing what's complete, what's not complete, who was assigned to the job, what feedback were sent, so who said any, say non-compliant bins, and then who was the operator that actually did that work. Where were they? How far were they into it? Just to see what's going on here. And if I go back one page, just really quick, I'm gonna use the shortcut and take my as seen on TV privileges. I'm gonna go also show my history. Oh, sorry, the history is down here. What I wanted to show was actually editing that route. So just in case I need to really quickly tweak something, I'm like, wait, hold on, I need to move that around. I can actually edit that route from the shortcut, and it brings me into the editor here where I can see. This is something I drew by hand. This is just something I went and I was like, what? I'm pretty sure the garbage truck did this. This is where they work. This is where they travel. I put a little alert by my old home here, just saying, there's a lot of apartment buildings in the area. Be conscious of the bins that might be floating around as you're doing a pickup. There's directions for turn by turn for the operators. as well as my stats for, you know, what's happening here. And I can actually go in here as the editor. So let's say I'm the, you know, road supervisor, roads director, and I'm like, you know, I'm digitizing things. I need to change things around, and I noticed I made an error. I can actually use these tools to move things in real time. So I can come over here and add new directions. I can add different points to kind of, you know, like actually I need to go around that corner. So I'm going to bring in a couple of turns and make them go around that crescent there and build that in, and then have them, you know, do that crescent, come back the other side. I can add new segments. I can move stuff around. You'll notice I also added in a few alarms to say, you know, school zone, slow down, turn ahead. There's a tight turn over here, slow down. You know, helping the operators get guidance on where they should be careful, what they should know about when they're in the area, to give them instructions on what's happening here. So really cool, really easy to kind of move around, add new segments around. So if I need to actually, you know, add new portions of my route, I can come in here and just tweak things and build new parts of the route. You know, it took me 3 seconds to add that in. So when it comes to digitization and saving your folks time when you're doing this, especially if you're coming from paper maps, you know, a lot of fears that I've heard in the past is, do I need to get involved in some like multi-hour, you know, it feels like a 1,000-hour long project just to get all my information, to get it out of my operators' heads, to digitize it. In reality, with this product, the nice part is you don't. You can actually just have somebody go in there and build it with them, or build it from the map, or even just take it straight from GeoTab and turn it into a actual brand new route. So in this case, I can come in here. I have my route management list here. I'm gonna import from, okay, I import from vehicle history. I'm gonna pick lucky truck number. Let's see. I'm gonna take the garbage truck 500 for the last hour. I don't know if there's actually history in here for this one. I'm just gonna take a quick guess. Oh yeah, there we go. There's my flying to Edmonton. Let's just say I'm going to give this a demo, you know, cross country tour, and we'll make that our cross country tour for our. You know what? We'll do a fire hydrant inspection. We're going to go all the way through Highway 1, all the way out to Alberta, and inspect all the fire hydrants along the way. Estimated average speed, let's say 25 kilometers an hour. I should get there in, you know, like a week, and I can build that out, add that route, and based on that GPS trace, I now have a route published. And now, of course, your real example would be a real life trace coming from GeoTab. Oh, say a garbage truck driving its normal route. In my case, I'm just doing a silly example of literally just my GPS snapping me across the country. But in the whole point of it being is that you have the ability to capture these routes really quick and easy. And you might even actually decide that you're going to take that and you want to modify that a little bit. You know, you're going to select this portion, and it's actually, you know, like say it's a I'm going to say schedule. That's just a placeholder type of work in there. So I'm going to take that segment and I'm going to say I'm on a certain schedule for that portion of that route, or I only have one in there, for example. So if I can change that away to you know, say a spreading operation, I can select these different segments and I can give them portions. So I can say that section we're going to be blasting. This is where I want to be in automatic mode. You know, these are going to be spots where I might be doing something else, traveling, deadheading, whatever the portion that you need to actually codify in your operation for a digital map, you can pop in there and you can modify things. And it also allows you to drop just live in here. We'll drop an instruction that says, you know, this is a, you know, alert. I spell properly. Alert. You are heading to. Congratulations. Congratulations, you're going there. We're going to do a voice instruction and say, stay rested, book accommodation. So whatever that instruction might be, it might be turn around, slow down, watch for pothole, watch for manhole, like a cover, like a road cover, watch for like electric lines that are, you know, might be a height restriction, whatever it might be. you can place that in there and say, or road out, for example, and assign a custom icon to it. So you can pick from the icon library in here, add your own. We'll talk about that during deployment. But the idea here is you can add that stuff, create those instructions, and I'm going to pivot into the operators portal here real quick because I want to show you what that actually looks like in real life. So I'm going to switch over to my Google Meet. I'm just going to drag it over to the screen here. So I want to show you folks what it looks like to actually have this one working. So obviously we're not going to run this one. We're actually going to run a little bit more rational route, which is actually going to be a garbage pickup on Ambleside Drive. And this is actually going to be a task-based route. So remember when I mentioned, I just did kind of that regular kind of turn-by-turn route there. Remember when I mentioned that these are all the places where somebody sent back, the operator clicked back on their app and said, I missed a pickup, oh, that bin wasn't compliant. I created a route based off of all those missed pickups and told it, you're starting here, route me to the first one and optimize my route to get my truck all the way to all the pickups that I need to get collected. So it'll do my street directions and pull it all together, and I'll get going in what I need to actually. And I can, as in this, like I said, not trying to get too far into training at all. Just to show you here, you can also move this stuff around. So if I wanted to break my route, my optimization, I can do all sorts of wacky things, drag some new stops around, and order exactly where I want them to go, and I can move that around. So I just wanted to show you that really quickly, just so you'd see what we're up to. And then I'm going to pop back over to my network state, to my live map. I want to show you the Ambleside Drive routes that I have. And I'm just going to do my garbage truck. And I'm going to do all my in-progress routes. There I am, hanging out. There's a few things that I have on deck to do. And quickly, I'm just going to bring my app up over here. So I am just presenting my phone, so just fair warning. It's just coming off my regular Android cell phone. This app is available on the store for both Android and iOS. So regardless of your IT deployment, whether you folks out there have iPhones or iPads or Android phones, you have an app that works both ways. It works for all device types, tablets and phones. And I'm going to pick my asset here. And I can see that, I'm assigned my vehicle here. This is my current location that I left off on. And a little bit of GPS simulation later. You can see me moving around. I'm driving, poking around. I'm going to pause that really quick just so I can switch into the routing mode. So you can see map controls. I can zoom in, zoom out. I'm using my fingers here to zoom out, zoom back in, capture my current location. I can actually provide just generic feedback as well. So in this case, it's focused on municipal context, but I can say this is a pothole. So it doesn't matter that I'm not on a route. I can actually drop a pin that says there's a pothole here. It was enough to make it worth me to report. I'm going to go use this route button in the bottom left-hand corner here. I'm just going to hit route. I'm going to do my Ambleside missed pickup route. So in this case, you can see I have so many routes I can possibly do. Because it's the demonstration system. But don't worry, this is something you'll focus things on certain vehicles in your real deployment. I'm going to use, say, missed pickups route. This is the one we were just viewing on the operator's or the manager screen. And I'm already 16% in. So let's just say, for example, I was letting this thing go around earlier, and I ran around and actually completed this early part of the route. So I came here. I marked 2 out of the 4 as complete tasks, and I'm now just about halfway-ish through the route. So I'm just heading down to this cul-de-sac, and I'm going to be popping back out to go up and around to do my route. So I'm actually picking up off. Let's say I'm picking up from the last operator. I'm the new person. My morning shift just switched out, and I'm afternoon shift. They only got 16% into this route, and I'm picking up from where they left off. So in this case, here we go. We're starting our turn-by-turn directions. It's showing me the current navigation. I'm just going to quickly start that playback real quick. and you'll see me start moving here, driving around. If I do have something I need to report, I can pop in here and add it in just in case, maybe I, spotted something during my route that I wasn't supposed to, or that wasn't supposed to be there. In this case, actually, one thing I did leave off was actually managing on-build pickups. So in the case of maybe a dynamic routing schedule that you folks might operate, so even on a fixed one, if there are customers on your routes that don't seem to be getting billed, or they seem to have more bins than usual, where you can log a feedback, I can also log something to say, I'm doing work for this person, but they don't actually show up in my schedule. They're on the way, so I'm doing it at a kindness, but they're not actually on my schedule. I'm not sure why. And that might be costing your operation quite a lot of money, depending on how much they're actually loaded into that truck. So in this case of waste, I might be taking on an extra piece of furniture every piece of route on my route, and that's extra weight that I'm disposing of at the landfill, and that's costing my operation money. So I want to find out from the operator if they're logging, hey, actually this was not on my schedule. I can find out if people are, adding stuff onto my plate that I shouldn't be. I can account for that and go back and figure out whether or not that's going to be an issue for me. So for example, I'm arriving here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm arriving here at my 2 stops. I'm just going to pause my GPS just briefly to keep on here to show you. So you'll see that I just kind of I just stopped here. I can tap as the operator when I arrive to my missed pickup. As the driver, I can tap on my tablet, I can tap on my task, and I can mark that complete. So it's actually, when I show up, I'm just actually ahead of it. So I can actually manually mark complete myself, or I'm gonna let this actually keep playing. I'm just gonna actually just resume my GPS here and have it continue on. And I think I should just, this is the fun part about live demos, is my GPS simulation app just crashed. Whoops. It stopped it because it was not happy that I didn't let it run. Technical problems. So I'm just going to reload that route real quick, and I'm going to let it play. That way we can see that on the screen. Just call up Rasters again real quick. So we can see it moving around. And as I advance to the actual stop, we're going to wait for it to get to Gloucester Road here. The app's going to actually prompt me. So I don't have to actually go do this myself. It's going to prompt me and say complete task. Once I've actually reached the destination of my task address, it's going to prompt me and say, do I want to do this now? I'm going to let that get there, and then you'll notice complete task. Boom, done. And then I've marked it off. It turns green. I keep driving, and I continue on my way, and I go to my next pickup, which is really cool. So just to show you, kind of to highlight, as an operator, the turn-by-turn directions, so that way I can spend less time as the firm or as the department to have to get these folks to memorize every last detail of the routes like we used to back in the old days. I can make changes to routes. I can send somebody off that has experience operating that piece of equipment off onto a new route they might not be entirely familiar with, but I can send them and use their skill set without having to go, oh no, I don't have anybody to service this route because, Sarah is off today. She's the only one capable of running that piece of equipment for the schedule. I can take another person that has those skills, put them on the route, and say, it's going to guide you there. Here's how you use the app, and then more or less make staffing more flexible. So make staffing more flexible. You can also spot, like I said, unmanaged pickups that might be costing you money. You can go back and easily reroute folks that made mistakes or had non-compliant bins, whatever it might be. In a snow plowing context, potholes, missing cars that weren't moved. Same thing with street sweeping, cars that weren't moved. I need to mark my location to say, actually, that spot, they didn't move the car. I'm going to send that information over to bylaw. I'm also going to mark that off and say that portion of my route didn't get completed. So I have a hole in my completion. which means I need to reschedule somebody to go back there at some point or issue a ticket, whatever it might be. For the private sector side of things, simply that collection didn't get done, which might be costing me revenue, or some kind of getting tongue-tied, some kind of other condition where it's costing me time or revenue, or something that's sending my schedule off that I don't want. So lots of great pieces of the platform to explore. So I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen here in a quick second, but I just wanted to show you folks, just right back to the back review here. We're getting into this level 3 to level 5 maturity scale. If you are here with us or you want to reach us here, this is what we're here for. This is exactly what Advantage is here for, to help you with, to get you to that part of the journey. And that's linking in things with things like NSIM. So, back quick to that, quick wins for digitization and some longer term, savings and potential areas for improvement. Those are kind of outcomes that, make this software worth your time. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And there looks like there's one question in the there. So thanks, Stu. So when do alerts and notifications expire? So these ones are decided by your organization. So you can these are actually usually part of every route normally. So it'd be an alert that always happens. You can make them expire if they're temporary, like construction. But normally, it's always a tight turn unless the street has been modified. Always do this, always do that. Here's an alert spot where you need to pay attention. But it's a great question. Great question. Ways-wise, we do have facilities to be able to help steer your telematics traffic into your operation traffic into Waze. Talk to us about that later. That's a whole other separate thing. But the idea here is those inside of Rasters are something that normally you would probably keep there for a long time. But like I said, you could always make them expire, but typically a lot of folks will just say, that's an alert for a corner, a tough corner that I want to make sure people drive safely on, or a school zone that needs to be pointed out. So as people drive these routes, they complete their tasks, they mark their feedbacks that mention things about what they're seeing on the road, and really, like I said, just training, like not having to train people so intensely, especially if it's a seasonal staffing, to have them come in and do this. And on top of that, for at least for our Canadian folks on the line, it's Canadian built and owned, which is a nice bonus. And overall, just a great solution I found to answer a lot of those challenges without necessarily having to go way into the deep enterprise, million and million kind of size city platforms that you might be wondering where the heck you're going to get the budget for. Rasters fits very well inside of that, 5 to 1,000 vehicle space. It scales all the way up into enterprise space, but it really shines when we are looking at, having let's say 5 to 250 vehicles is really where it really has that sweet spot. So appreciate everybody's time here today. I don't see any additional questions, but I don't know if I can turn this thing into a conference call. Anybody just ask live questions. But appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming. This webinar is recorded, so we will be sending that link out to everybody on the line here and everybody that responded to the invite. But yeah, no, thanks for coming down, and hope to talk to you soon about your routing solution needs. And reach out to Jordan if you've talked to him. If he's your account manager, reach out to him for sure. Otherwise, reach out to your account manager and talk about them. And I'll probably be on the line with you there here as well as the sales engineer to help navigate that stuff with you and really align the solution to your requirements.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew. That was fantastic. And like he said, I'll be sending out the link as soon as it's available to me.
Thanks, folks. For those on the Easter weekend coming up here for Good Friday, enjoy your weekend. Happy Easter, and we'll see you again next week.